When I was in graduate school, I learned that white women didn't own property, were not allowed to own property. But in fact, the historian Stephanie Jones Rogers, in her recent book from 2019, They Were Her Property, documents through historical records how white women actually were slave owners, often because their father had died and bequeathed enslaved people to them, or they married a man who had enslaved people and they were co-owners with him. And part of what she documents from the narration of formerly enslaved people is that the white women who were slave owners were especially cruel in their treatment of their enslaved property. And part of the reason that she speculates this is that there was a kind of desire to prove their worth, right, as a worthy slave owner. And it was also a way that white women gained a kind of modicum of power in sort of brokering their leverage over enslaved people to pursue a more wealthy husband or to gain more power in the relationship. One reviewer of this work referred to the kind of treatment that white women exerted on their enslaved people as a kind of imaginative sadism. And that's a phrase that really struck with me because it's something that I recognized in my own family.
Click the link in the bio to get the book.
Today we're going to be speaking about Delphine Lalaurie, the New Orleans sadistic slave owner, reputed serial killer of slaves. Who is this sadistic slave owner, you may ask? Well, she was born in New Orleans, Spanish Louisiana, into an affluent family, and though there's nothing particularly interesting about her childhood, during the Haitian Revolution, her uncle was murdered by slaves. She witnessed this event at the age of 4, and it's speculated by many that this is possibly what triggered her hatred towards slaves. One particularly disturbing report claimed there was a woman whose bones had been broken and reset so that she resembled a crab, and that another woman was wrapped in human intestines. The witness also claimed that there were people with holes in their skulls and wooden spoons near them that would be used to stir their brains. Uncorroborated reports from eyewitnesses claim that there were at least 7 slaves beaten, bruised, and bloodied to within an inch of their lives, their eyes gouged out, skin flayed, and mouths filled with excrement and then sewn shut. Many of these gruesome acts took place in the attic of Madame Delphine. Some say there were only a handful of bodies found, others claimed hundreds. Either way, she went down as the most brutal woman in history.
There was one situation where one of the enslaved people had their bones broken and then reconfigured to that of a crab, so the person looked like a human crab. Madame Lalaurie was a very infamous slave owner who was known for torturing the enslaved Foundation of Black Americans right in this very mansion. She was known to chain some of the enslaved people to stoves and starve them for weeks on end. She would keep enslaved people in cages and do all of these crude experiments on them. This woman also conducted crude sex change operations on the enslaved Foundation of Black Americans here. Her torturous ways became so brutal. There was a very young black girl who was enslaved in this mansion. She tried to escape Madame Lalaurie, and this little girl jumped out of that top window behind us and killed herself.
Hey, good morning. A moment in white history.
Okay, let's talk about the Casual Killing Act of 1669. You see, in those days, Virginia was still very much a colony, and it had a unique problem. White women. I promise I'm not picking on white women, I'm just being historically accurate at this point. You see, white women had become a problem in colonial Virginia. Some were married young and were pissed off at the older men they were forced to marry. Some were frustrated from just being a woman in colonial Virginia. While most were pissed off at the caramel-colored babies running around their plantation wearing their husbands' faces. You see, slavery was a white man's sexual fantasy come to life. It was his own sexual playground, to do with these enslaved women as he pleased. There was no such thing as a consensual relationship between an enslaver and the enslaved. So whenever he wanted it, he got it from whomever he wanted, be it male, female, enslaved or not. And this pissed a lot of rich white women off, to have a husband who's no longer sexually attracted to you, but is out making 6, 10, 12, 15 kids with some enslaved African woman. So these white women would take out their frustrations on the bodies of these innocent children who did nothing more than simply exist. You ever watch Looney Tunes or Tex Avery cartoons and you see somebody get hit in the head with a frying pan? Hit in the head with a rolling pin? Had hot water poured on them? Had hot grease poured on them? Poke them in the eye, Three Stooges style? These are the things that rich white women would do to these caramel-colored babies. So many mixed-race babies were being killed at the hands of white women that something had to be done, because you couldn't arrest a white woman because that's just simply unheard of. So in October of 1669, King Charles II of England created the Casual Killing Act. Pause to read. In so many words, it says that any slave who resists his master, mistress, or overseer and is killed because you resisted correction, then the person who killed you gets away scot-free. And this was created in order to prevent white women from seeing any punishment from killing innocent black babies. And this essentially fixed the problem of white women killing black people. They could say that, oh, this slave resisted correction and died in the process of me correcting him. And they got away scot-free. Which is partially the reason why police say stop resisting. Because if you are killed for resisting their correction, and they told you to stop resisting, that justifies your death.
And that's how stop resisting became a moment in white history.
This is the book of Obadiah, chapter 1, verse 10, and it reads, For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever. All praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rahakakodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well in teaching us this 100% truth. Salutations to them and our fellow Akim who labor in this truth week in and week out on the highways and byways. Also, salutations to the hopeful elect of the scattered 12 tribes of Israel, scattered to the four corners of the earth, that be like unto the speckled bird, also known as your Israelite foreigners, and your so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. To you, I say Shalom. This is your brother Ayashar Barazal from the Indianapolis branch of the Great Millstone, coming back at you with another lesson that is edifying to the elect body of the nation of Israel. All right, this scripture here is talking about Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, for his violence against Jacob, who are the true Israelites, according to the Bible. It's not a color thing, We were scattered to the ends of the earth, according to Deuteronomy 28:64, and in a lot of cases, we will look like the heathen, but go back to the bloodline of Jacob, the true children of Israel. All right, but we've been, focused on the so-called white man a lot. This particular video, I'm going to go into that devil Edomite woman, who so-called white woman, who was just as brutal to us during slavery. You just saw the clips involving the book called They Were Her Property, which documents, white women and their huge role in slavery. And, they were so brutal, as you saw in one of the clips, a law had to be done to protect them from killing children. The Casual Killing Act of 1669. All right, that's documented as well, which is, as we know today, how the police got their start with killing with impunity, and why they scream, stop resisting. So a lot of that's tied in. And you also saw a clip of one of the most brutal so-called white women slave owners, Madame Laurie, I believe it was in New Orleans, and she was so so terrible that even the white people was like, damn, we got to get her out of here, the so-called white people. All right, but in that one clip where the guy is talking about the Casual Killing Act, the one thing I want to correct: there's no such thing as mixed babies. You are whatever your father is. You are the seed of your father, according to Numbers 1 and 18. Okay, you are the seed of your father. All right, no matter how you look. All right, as we talk about all the time, You can take a packet of seeds from one packet, plant them all over the United States or Babylon the Great, okay? Plant them all over the world. And you're going to have different soil types, and different climates are going to definitely affect how that seed springs forth out of the ground, but it never changed what you planted. All right, so I just want to clear that up from that video. All right, I got this article too. I'm going to start reading it. Kind of supports what's in that book called They Were Her Property. It's an article written, just got it like a couple days ago. It says American slavery wasn't just a white man's business. New research shows how white women profited too. It's by Trevor Logan from Ohio State University. All right, and it goes on to read. As the United States continues to confront the realities and legacy of slavery, Americans continue to challenge myths about the country's history. One enduring myth is that slavery was a largely male endeavor, that, for the most part, the buying, selling, trading, and profiting from enslavement were carried out by white men alone. While white women certainly interacted with enslaved people in household management and day-to-day tasks, historians once argued that they aren't active owners and had very limited involvement in transactions. This was once widely believed to be a reason why Southern white women supported the institution. They were assumed to be blind to this darker side. As an expert in the economic history of slavery, I know the story is far more complex. In fact, slavery was unique in economically empowering women. It was, in essence, an early feminist institution, but exclusively for white women. A lasting myth. The myth that women didn't profit from slavery has endured for several reasons. First, before the American Civil War, married women generally owned nothing of their own. The legal institution of coverture made the property of a woman brought into her marriage into the property of her husband. This also meant that if a husband was in debt, a creditor could claim the wife's property for payment. And we know who that creditor was. There's a series of books out, The Secret Relationship Between the Blacks and the Jews, which is one of the documents that the so-called Jewish people, or the imposters living in the Ukraine and the state of Israel right now, not only financed the transatlantic slave trade, they own the ships. All right, they own the ships. So that's who that creditor was. All right. Continuing on. In addition, there were very few surviving records that show Southern white women discussing the business of slavery. And finally, in cases where women were owners of enslaved people, say through the death of a husband, they often used agents or male relatives to handle their affairs. Added together, there's very little to suggest that white women were deeply involved in the slavery business, which, was proven wrong in that book. All right. They were her property. All right. Researchers have started to challenge this view by moving beyond the traditional archival sources. The innovative historian Stephanie Jones Rogers has documented how regularly white women were seen in all aspects of American enslavement. And Stephanie Jones Rogers is the author of that book, They Were Her Property, that was featured in the video clip. All right. Her most compelling evidence comes from interviews with formerly enslaved people themselves who noted they were owned by and explained how belonging to the missus affected every aspect of their life. The white feminism of American slavery. Historians have also started grappling with the ways American slavery was uniquely gender egalitarian, at least for white women. While northern women were trapped in coverture, southern states were bypassing coverture, especially for the purpose of giving married women rights to own enslaved people. And we know in history, if there was no son as an heir, the father would gift the daughters their slaves, and that's how, they became in excess of 40% of slave owners. All right. Continuing on. The earliest such act passed in the United States was the Mississippi Married Women's Property Law of 1839. This law explicitly awarded married white women ownership status over enslaved individuals. Slavery was the driver of this change. 4 of the 5 sections of the act refer only to property in enslaved people. Similar acts were passed by other southern states in the antebellum era to shield married women from responsibility of their husbands' debts and also to allow women to independently accumulate wealth during marriage. Of course, laws on the books may not reflect how people actually behave, but new research shows that white women were very involved in the business of slavery, and yes, they were. In states where enslaved people were titled property, like a house or car today, sales were recorded with names of buyers, sellers, and the name of the enslaved people in the transaction. White women in states where legislation formally protected their property rights to enslaved property were much more likely to be active in the market. All right, and you can see that right here. I'll put a clip of this, a link to this article in the comment section or the description box, depending on how YouTube is feeling today. All right. Continue on. Further analysis of these records show that white women were involved in nearly a third of all transactions, buying and selling in equal proportion. White women were especially likely to buy and sell enslaved women, making up nearly 40% of the people doing the buying and selling. All right. Enslaved women were especially economically valuable because if someone owned an enslaved woman, they automatically became the owner of all her children. For slave owners, owning an enslaved woman was an intergenerational wealth building activity. Man, got a lot to pay for, Esau, a lot to pay for. A historical irony. We are left to confront a deep irony in American history. Slavery gave white women in the South significantly more economic independence than those in the North, and they used this freedom with remarkable regularity. Women in the slave states had legal rights to property that was half of the wealth in the United States at that time. Wow. Women in the North could only dream of such economic independence. While historians once claimed that white women supported the Confederacy because they were blind to the reality of slavery, researchers now know they could have been motivated by the same economic impulses as their husbands. Yep, equally guilty, equally guilty. All right, slavery was actually a more gender egalitarian institution than other forms of property or wealth accumulation. So it's not surprising that white women would have a vested interest in it. Slavery was a white man's and women's business. All right, so there are the credits right there. Yeah, like I said, I'm going to put a link in there. So, yeah, She-sau, you're as equally as guilty as your male counterpart, Esau. All right, so let's get some scriptures. This is the book of Psalms, chapter 73 and 5. And it reads, "They are not in trouble as other men, neither are they plagued like other men." Yeah, you had a whole law, the Casual Killing Act of 1669, that protected them. You know, allowed them to kill us through the course of what they said was correction. All right. I mean, yeah, straight bullshit, you know. Yeah, these are some very, very sick people, you know. Verse 6, "Therefore pride compasseth them about as a chain. Violence covereth them as a garment." It's like, you know, hey, they just decked out, you know, in violence and in pride, you know, because they think nothing is going to happen to them. But, you know, like the Lord said in Job 21 and 30, you know, the wicked is deserved for the day of destruction, and the day of wrath, they're going to be brought forth. All right. Let me slide down to verse 8. Psalm 73, verse 8. "They are corrupt and speak wickedly concerning oppression. they speak loftily. Yeah, I mean, just like I said, it's a corrupt, speak wickedly concerning oppression and speak lawfully. I mean, they just proud, that they could do the things they could do to us with impunity, during slavery. And like like you saw in that clip that Madame Laurie, I mean, that was the epitome of it. But I would venture to say she was not the only one like that during slavery, considering the fact you had to have a whole law created to protect them, uh, you know, from killing the slaves. All right, yeah, that white woman is something else, a wicked one. She's of the wicked nation of people. All right, this is Sirach 25, also Ecclesiasticus and the Apocrypha 25, verse 19, and it reads, "All wickedness is but little to the wickedness of a woman. Let the portion of a sinner fall upon her." Now, this says all wickedness is but little to the wickedness of a woman. Now, this is talking about a Jake woman, but it's unfathomable, almost unfathomable how wicked the so-called white woman is, because she was created to be the wicked. That whole nation was. And when you listen to the stuff that Madame Laurie did, yeah, she was something else. She was something else, And it says, "Let the portion of a sinner fall upon her." What's that? Death. You know, the wages of sin is death. Point blank. Period. All right. So, yes, She-sau. You had just as much involvement and brutality in that slave trade, and that's why the scriptures don't discriminate when it's going to come to punishing the nation of Edom. Doesn't make a distinction between men and women. It's the whole nation. You had your part in it. All right. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 33 and 1. And it reads, "Woe to thee that spoilest, and thou wast not spoiled, and dealest treacherously, and they dealt not treacherously with thee. When thou shalt cease to spoil, thou shalt be spoiled, and when thou shalt make an end to deal treacherously, they shall deal treacherously with thee." So, the tides are going to turn. The stuff that you did to Jacob, those curses are going to fall on you. All right. This is, everything that happened. You're going into captivity, and we're going to be brutal too in righteousness. All right. This is Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 7. And it reads, "And Yahweh thy power will put all these curses upon thine enemies and on them that hate thee, which persecuted thee." All the nations hated us, okay? But the nation that really hated us the most is Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. And he made that clear in a couple of scriptures. Your hatred for us was perpetual, according to Ezekiel 35, 5 and 6, and Amos 1 and 11. Okay, a perpetual hatred. You had no pity. You showed no mercy. Okay, and that recompense is going to happen. All right, this is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 30, and verse 16. And it reads, "Therefore all they that devour thee shall be devoured, and all thine adversaries, every one of them, shall go into captivity, and they that spoil thee shall be a spoil, and all that prey upon thee I will give thee for prey." How much clearer does it get than that? You're going to be destroyed. You're going into captivity, and you're going to, vomit up everything that you took, all the riches. Everything's coming back. Of course, once again, we're going to do it all in righteousness. But this scripture, scriptures are concrete in what they mean when it comes to recompense, the vengeance of the Lord for His people. Like the scriptures say, he that touches you touches the apple of his eye. All right. So you got a lot to pay for, Esau, Edom, especially the whole nation. You women, you gonna get it too. All right. After your captivity is done. Now, don't get me wrong. Once you go into captivity, you will be concubines. The fairest ones will be the concubines. The sloppy ones going to be served as slavery. The ugly ones, that's no use. And you concubines, yeah, yep. Because there's videos about how you so-called white women slave owners had your way with slaves too. Yeah, but same thing, except it's going to be in righteousness. All right, according to the law. All right, so yeah, you're going into captivity, and you're going to be spoiled of all your riches and goods. All right, and ultimately you're going to be devoured after you serve your 1,000 years of slavery and pay for all that you did to us, going all the way back to exiting Egypt, because the Lord said in Deuteronomy chapter 25, verses 17 through 19, especially regarding Amalek, told us to never forget what you did to us. How you came from behind and killed our weak and feeble as we were leaving Egypt. All right. And then for the rest of the nation of Edom, which Amalek is part of, you wouldn't let us pass by when we were trying to get to where we're supposed to go. All right. You wouldn't let us pass through the land. So yeah, including the captivities you had us in, you still got to pay for that too. All right. This is the book of Joel, chapter 3, verse 19. And it reads, Egypt shall be a desolation, and Edom, so-called white people, shall be a desolate wilderness for the violence against the children of Judah, because they have shed innocent blood in their land. Okay, and we know Edom wasn't in ancient Egypt, so this is talking about spiritual Egypt, Slakia, which means a house of bondage. And Babylon the Great, aka America, is also called spiritual Sodom and Egypt. Okay. Verse 20. Oh, shed innocent blood in their land. Yeah, that's here. Okay, because the scriptures say Judah and Israel shall be oppressed together in Babylon, according to Jeremiah 50 and 33, 34. All right. Joel chapter 3, verse 20. But Judah shall dwell forever, and Jerusalem from generation to generation. All right. That's that immortality, having those incorruptible bodies. Okay. Having the new covenant. That's the new covenant. Once we have those bodies, okay, we'll never be able to go up. We'll never be able to go off again, because the law is going to be on our inward parts. Part of our genetic fabric. All right. Verse 21, and it says, "For I will cleanse their blood that I have not cleansed, for the Lord dwelleth in Zion." Let me read that again. "For I will cleanse their blood that I have not cleansed, for the Lord dwelleth in Zion." How is that blood going to be cleansed? There's the answer, Numbers 35 and 33. And it reads, "So ye shall not pollute the land wherein ye are, for blood it defileth the land, and the land cannot be cleansed of the blood that is shed therein, but by the blood of him that shed it." You shed a lot of blood, Esau, Edom, especially a lot of you white women. You may not have done it by your hands, But a lot of our communities, a lot of Jakes were killed not only in slavery because of you, but during the Jim Crow era, where you could easily say, like for Emmett Till, you know, you could say something, you know, and mobs, they would kill Jake, okay? All because of the word of a white woman who's supposed to be so pure, you know? And they showed you that wasn't the case in Rosewood, all right? How all that started, you know, constantly lying. But yeah, so that's the thing. It says the land, let me read that again. So ye shall not pollute the land wherein ye are, for blood it defileth the land, and the land cannot be cleansed of the blood that is shed therein, but by the blood of him that shed it. So y'all got to go, like, and never return, you know, according to Obadiah 1 and 18. All right, y'all gotta go. You're terrible for the planet. You know, the planet is out of sorts because of you. You know, everything's upside down because of you so-called white people. All right, but more importantly, you know, you have to pay for what you did to the children of Israel. All right, but yeah, y'all got to go and to never return. All right, this is the book of Job. I'm gonna close out here. Chapter 20, beginning at verse 5. And it reads, the triumphing of the wicked is short, and the joy of the hypocrite but for a moment. Yeah, y'all time is slowly winding down. You know, in this same book, you know, it says you have bounds that you cannot pass. Okay? Your rulership is almost up, and it's very, very close. All right? It said your triumphing is short. Period. You're almost out of here, you know, after you do your slavery and servitude. Verse 6. Though his excellency mount up to the heavens, and his head reacheth unto the clouds, you know, all of your technology, you know, literally, and then, you know, how you exalt yourself in person with your pride. You know, you think you above the Most High. All right. Verse 7. Yet he shall perish forever like his own dung. They which have seen him shall say, where is he? Verse 8. He shall fly away as a dream and shall not be found. Yea, he shall be chased away as a vision of the night. You're going to disappear and never return, Esau, Edom, forever. Verse 9. The eye also which saw him shall see him no more, neither shall his place any more behold him. You are out of here once this is over, okay? You are out of here. And good riddance. All right? So I hope this lesson was edifying for the elect body of the nation of Israel. You know, once again, we have another installment to our camps series called For Thy Violence Against Thy Brother Jacob. Just bringing out a lot of history that, you know, that we have endured as a people. A lot of hidden history that proves, you know, how it, you know, just really proves the scriptures as to how we would be treated, you know. And I'm talking about with respect to the curses. Okay, this is just one of many of them, you know. But like I said, we'd always been focusing on the Edomite male, you know. That woman was just as bad. All right. So once again, with that, I hope this lesson was edifying for the elect body of the nation of Israel. Once again, I'm going to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rahakakodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well in teaching us this 100% truth. Salutations to them and my fellow Akim who labor in this truth week in and week out on the highways and byways. Also, salutations to the hopeful elect of the scattered 12 tribes of Israel, scattered to the four corners of the earth, that be likened to the speckled bird, also known as your Israelite foreigners, and your so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. To you, I say Shalom, Kwam Yasharallah. We got next. You out of here, Esau.